So welcome everyone to our Friday morning session, and we have been looking at, did a kind of a deep dive into the 5 hindrances, and now we're doing the counterpart. So all the time that we were talking about the 5 hindrances, we were the royal we, and in our discussions, we were talking about the impersonal nature of the hindrances. That they're not us. They're forces of any and every human mind. Forces in any and every human mind. 5 hindrances. We all know them now quite well. The sense craving, ill will, dullness and drowsiness, restlessness and remorse, and skeptical doubt. And as we begin to meditate and cultivate a spiritual path, the 5 hindrances, we come to know them very well and learn a lot about our habit energy and the patterns in our mind. And we learn how to disengage from them and have them lessen. And what is coming online as the 5 hindrances are being dealt with are the 5 spiritual faculties. And again, these are impersonal. These are forces, these are pure forces in the mind, of a mind that is being purified. And the 5 spiritual faculties are faith, energy, mindfulness, right in the middle, and samadhi. A good translation is collectedness or stillness, and wisdom. These are the 5 spiritual faculties. And these are what are doing the meditation. These 5 spiritual faculties. And last week we spoke about faith, the gateway, the entrance, and the foundation. This is what gets us started, is faith. And the translation that I'm really jazzed about lately is a translation I heard in a talk by Rob Burbea. He's a British lay teacher that passed away early in his 50s from pancreatic cancer on Vesak. He died on Vesak, May 7th, 2020. And truly a mystic. And his translation of faith is confidence or trust in the reality of possibility. And this is a wonderful Buddhist definition of faith. It's not a belief in a doctrine. It's not a belief in a set of ideas. It's not a belief in a God. It's not even a belief in the benevolence of the universe. It's faith. It's trust or confidence in the reality of possibilities. And the Buddha, like all Buddhas that have arisen in the world, any Buddha has 10 powers that are unique to a Buddha. And the first of the Buddha's 10 powers is to know what's possible and what's not possible. And this is a significant paradigm that the Buddha refers to many, many times, literally hundreds of times in the suttas. The Buddha will describe this is possible and this is not possible. And I just want to share from 10 years in the robes, I've just ended up, I'm not very techie, but I am kind of mechanical. So I always, the 2 monasteries that I lived at before here was the maintenance person, the work nun. And I ended up having to do these things in the physical world that I had never done, like installing toilets or, doing some drywall, changing out faucets. And it became really clear to me that if I had confidence that this was possible, even loosening, unscrewing two things. I remember when I was doing this faucet, I just wasn't sure. Do these come apart or am I going to break it? And as long as I had that mindset, I couldn't get them apart. So this idea of knowing what's possible and having confidence as a definition of faith is true. It's practical. It's real. There's a great example of it. There's a few people here who heard that story now 3 times. Anyway, there's a wonderful example of this principle acting out. 4 people, oh my. Anyway, it happened back in the 1930s. It's about a grad student. He was an economics grad student. His name was George Dantzig, Dantzig. And he was in grad school at University of Berkeley in University of California in Berkeley. And he had his seminar class every week. And this one week he oversleeps and he rushes to class and he's like halfway through the class. And there are these 2 problems that have been written down on the board and he writes them down. They're the homework. And leaves the class and spends the whole week trying to figure these things out. It's struggling. It takes a long time. It takes like 2 or 3 extra weeks to solve these problems. And sheepishly comes to the prof, like, is there any way that, they were kind of hard. Is there any way that you accept them late? So the prof's quite interested and takes them. And it turns out that they weren't the homework. They were put up on the board by the professor as these are 2 examples of problems that, as of yet, in mathematics, in economics, are unsolvable. These are considered impossible. But George Dantzig didn't get that piece of information. So he approached these problems like, I got to figure this out. And he did. He solved both equations. It's quite a remarkable story. But this idea of confidence that we can do this is something that we really want to cultivate and bring to our meditation practice. It's where you're approaching. It's not where you're going. It's how you're coming in. It's very different than expectations and hope. This is just confidence in the Dhamma, confidence in the Buddha's instructions. And that when you're confident that you can do something, you bring a lot more investment, you bring a lot more energy to what you're doing, and it's often more enjoyable than just this lurking, oh my gosh, can I, is this going to work? Can I do this? That's sort of leaning into that hindrance of doubt. The teacher that I've been learning meditation from the last year is a British woman named Beth Upton. She has her own version of this what's possible and instilling it in her students. And she's got a beautiful British accent, and she'll just go, you can do. But when she's saying it, that, she's done it, and she's coached many, guided many people. And so it could even be, because I get to hear this often, because on her retreat, she has daily group interviews that are optional. So you're getting to hear her instruct other people in their meditation. And there's a whole range, people that are new to meditation, people that maybe don't even have a daily practice, people that are, have had consistent, easy access into much deeper states of meditation, into the jhanas, people beyond that, remembering their past lives. There's just a whole range. And at really kind of at every step, be it she coaching someone that you can be with this as of yet undigested, unattended pain. You can do it. You can do. You can have the courage and the patience. You can do. Or if she's even instructing someone how to go from second jhana to third jhana, you can do. Do as if you've done it many times with confidence. Aditana, you can do. And when we have that springboard, when we have that foundation, we bring a lot of wholesome, interested energy to our meditation practice, which is the second of the 5 spiritual faculties. And I'm always reticent to talk about energy because often the Buddha will give a teaching in brief and then a teaching in detail. And when the Buddha gives the teaching in detail about energy, this second of the 5 spiritual faculties, he's actually describing right effort, which is, many of us know, is the 6th factor on the 8-fold noble path, the factor that's the beginning of the last 3: right effort, right mindfulness, right samadhi. The last third of the 8-fold noble path that is really specifically about training the mind, about meditation. And I think that a lot of care needs to be given around talking about this word effort, this right effort, with many of us that have been brought up in the West and have a lot of conditioning, a lot of individualistic conditioning, a lot of competitive conditioning. And as soon as we're in an individualistic culture, then it's a petri dish for strengthening a sense of self and really, this petri dish where just it's all about me. Like, if something doesn't work out, that's because of me. Just to illustrate that, I remember reading this example, sort of comparing individualistic culture, collectivist culture, and it was using as an example 2 divers that had won Olympic medals, and one was American and one was Japanese. And the American, when she was interviewed after winning the medal, was like, "Oh yeah, I was there, I was super able to focus, trained hard, and blah blah blah, all about her own ability." And then the Japanese woman, when she was interviewed, it was all about her family and her support system and her coach. And I'm just saying this is the conditioning. If we're in an individualistic culture, which we all have grown up in, we very much have this conditioning about, and it's full of delusion. It's quite harmful, actually. So that an effort, pushes right on all those buttons. We have a lot of conditioning. Just pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. You work harder. It's because you didn't try enough. A lot about, like, if I try harder, it will go better. It will work out. And on the spiritual path, like everything, we have to turn things right side up. This is not at all what the Buddha is instructing us. If we're just trying harder, we will get in a big mess. And I can say that. I can say that with 100% authority. I was a classical musician. I was just practiced, hours and hours a day since I was like 10 years old, and then I did the same in meditation, and I just got very, very tense and tight and dry. So don't do that. Even though we all have that conditioning. And these five spiritual faculties, faith, feeding into energy feeding into mindfulness. Typically, the culture that we live in, our mindfulness is very weak. We live in and it's getting worse. There's just so much competition for our attention. We're really, really like, if people at the time of the Buddha were trying to climb go against the stream and go against the tendency in the human mind, it's like this now with the internet and with cell phones and with all of social media. The vie for our attention is exponentially more what we're up against. Bodhi Paul and I had conversations about that this week. The Buddha was speaking to people that were farmers and weavers, and that no one was getting on a train, no one was getting on a high-speed train, no one's getting on they were like walking or having a donkey pull their cart. Things were much slower and they were much more settled. So right effort, like for me, there's two ways that it's especially tricky for us with our conditioning. And I think a go-to monk for right effort in a way that is very helpful and very skillful, teaching people with our conditioning, Westerners, is Ajahn Brahm. And at this point, actually, he wouldn't even use right effort. He would call it right endeavor. And as I've been just sort of soaking in this all week, I'm even at the point like, can we just even call it right engagement? Engaging with the unwholesome and engaging with the wholesome in a way that is helpful, constructive, productive. So what are these right endeavors? Right engagements? The Buddha gives us in detail a description, and he does this many, many times in the sutta. And I am going to just throughout this now call it right endeavor, to try and counter what can happen for us with our conditioning when we hear about effort. Okay, I'm just, and you can pick up the suttas in a way that sort of reinforces that. Okay, I'm just, and many people I know that start to get really serious about the Dhamma have this time. Okay, I'm just going to sit here. Sometimes like, okay, I'm just going to sit here until I become a stream winner, and then like 20 minutes later, anyway. Okay. And what is so this is from the Samyutta Nikaya, the connected discourses of the Buddha, and it's 48, Sutta 10. And I'm reading Bhante Sujato's translation, and still there are some phrases in here that are we could pick up as like, okay, I'm just gonna strive. I'm just gonna go. I think the word strive is in here. Yeah, here we go. And what is the faculty of energy? It's when a noble disciple lives with energy roused up for giving up unskillful qualities and embracing skillful qualities. It's two-pronged. They're strong, staunchly vigorous, not slacking off when it comes to developing skillful qualities. They generate enthusiasm, try, and gets a little bit more intense. Make an effort, exert the mind, and strive, so that bad, unskillful qualities don't arise. They generate enthusiasm, try, make an effort, exert the mind, and strive, so that bad, unskillful qualities that have arisen are given up. They generate enthusiasm, try, make an effort, exert the mind, and strive, so that skillful qualities arise. They generate enthusiasm, try, make an effort, exert the mind, and strive, so that skillful qualities that have arisen remain, are not lost, but increase, mature, and are completed by development. This is called the spiritual faculty of energy. So these four instructions to try and bring into our lives, into our meditation, preventing unwholesome qualities from arising. And then if unwholesome qualities have arisen, abandoning them, letting them go, figuring out how to disentangle from them, and not be feeding them, but starving them. And then the third, on the positive side, and again, another thing the Buddha usually does, bad news, all good news, is to arouse unwholesome mind states that haven't yet arisen. And fourthly, sorry, what did I say?
You said unwholesome.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Silly. Arouse wholesome mind states that have not yet arisen. Thank you so much. And fourthly, maintain these wholesome states that have arisen. And honestly, that a really shorthand definition of wholesome and unwholesome is if there's any kind of suffering or contraction, tension, upset, this is a key, this is a signal from this wonderful nervous system that we have that something is off, something is unwholesome. It's not in flow, it's not relaxed, and invariably, in some way, you're framing a situation that's not in a wholesome way. That can be your shorthand for what's unwholesome and what's wholesome. The wholesome, you feel it in the body. The body is more open, the heart is more open, there's much less reactivity, there's kind of a okayness, even though it's not what I like, even though I'm sad, and I would have wished for, it's okay, it's what's happening. There's a surrender to reality, unwholesome and wholesome. So this four-pronged, preventing unwholesome, abandoning, letting go of unwholesome that have arisen, then arousing wholesome that have not yet arisen, and then trying to maintain the wholesome. And this idea of right endeavor, moving away from this, work kind of effort, me doing it, just this right endeavor, this right engagement, this right tone, right flavor of working with the habits of the mind. For me, the best paradigm or metaphor is attuned parenting. If you have an attuned parent, and if you ever have had experience around a parent that, it could even be an attuned dog owner, and that may be even more accessible that we've witnessed. People that are really attuned to their dog, and that have put, really kind, informed, skilled effort into training the dog. It's a beautiful thing to watch. And I think that this is what the Buddha is talking about. This, an attuned parent, and I'll just use my daughter as an example because I think she's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. None of us are, but she's a stay-at-home parent, and it's like really important to her, something she's wanted since she was very young. She's done tons of reading about attachment parenting, and I watch her interact with their children, and it really is like watching a little vignette of right endeavor. And I've told her that it's like watching really good meditation, like taken outside of the inside and, you know, put into a little skit. And I'll just give you some examples, like prevent, you know, and we can do this with ourselves. That's the point, that we are the parent and we are also the child, you know. Our the skills that we're developing in meditation, learning the Buddha's teachings and then practicing them. This is the parent part, and then the mind that we're working with. This is the child. And so, and I think it is a good, you know, I've often heard meditation teachers talk about, you know, you're meditating. It is like training a puppy. I don't think this is it. So our minds are like, they're pretty untrained when we start. They're like puppies or like toddlers, and they need a lot of support. They need a lot of direction to not fall apart. And our meditation's the same, you know, but not effort. If we can move away from that and start thinking about love and attention and care. So my daughter will, you know, always know, this is the attuned part, always know, you know, kind of the capacity of the child at this point in time, you know, how much have they slept, how much have they eaten, how much have they had to drink, you know, how bored are they at this point. There's just this tracking. We can do the same thing with ourselves. You know, it's really important for us, if we can, to try and get enough sleep. We make the spiritual path easier for ourselves because you're much more resourced. So yeah, and just she'll set the children up for success. You know, if there's a transition coming, they get lots of warning, and they get lots of they'll be given choices that are appropriate. You know, so that they're part of the. And you just watch this flow. It's beautiful. And this whole idea of trust, confidence, you know, I've watched them bake, and chocolate chips go in anything that's baked. And there's a ritual of each child gets, there's two, a boy and a girl, each child gets 2 chocolate chips each time they have a baking activity. You know, and my daughter Allison will, you know, she lets the children reach in the bag and get the chocolate chips, but she sets them up, you know, like, how many did you get? 2, you know, and okay, so you get to take them, you know, and you can do this. It's the kind of you can do. I trust you. So it's this beautiful thing of not over controlling. So there's so many lessons for us. This idea of the parent and the child, and cultivating this beautiful relationship of confidence and trust within ourselves, you know, and that helps us take the hands off the steering wheel, like stop trying to control things, controlling the breath or controlling the meditation, how it unfolds. Just relax, surrender, lean into trust. And when the abandoning part, when the unwholesome mind states have arisen, sort of what we've been talking about for almost 2 months, you know, about the hindrances. But in terms of this right endeavor and the right tone, the right feeling when you're working with the mind that's now a toddler, that's, you know, having a bit of a hissy fit. In attuned parenting, always the first step is to acknowledge what's happening, you know, and that is what we do need to be doing in our meditation, recognizing and acknowledging. And sometimes it's very appropriate for us to validate, like, it's understandable, I'm sad. Well, something difficult's happening. So I see, and it's almost like a dialogue, like to our own mind. I see you're sad. As soon there's something very important in the human psyche that things to resolve and heal, they really need to be witnessed. But we can be our own witness. And sometimes you then go outside, and that's where this whole idea of spiritual friendship, kalyanamitta, is very important. Sometimes we can't witness enough. We need more witnessing and empathy and understanding. And then you can ask the upset what it needs, and try and meet that need. And then with cultivating wholesome mind states, I think again, leaning into this definition of faith, confidence in the reality of possibility, to really stretch our own I don't know what to say, thoughts or feelings or ideas about what our particular mind is capable of. We can actually cultivate a tremendous amount of good. And it's the most worthwhile thing that we can do in our life. And we live in a day and age where I think that the existential angst, the problems that humanity is facing at this time, to me, are the volume is way turned up, and kind of almost every arena of human life that you look at, be it even food, our food production, the clothing, and you just look around, it's like AI, it's like the suttas, there's a sutta where the Buddha is giving a metaphor of like the rolling in from the north is like basically a landslide, rolling in from the south, a landslide, rolling in from the west, rolling in from the east. He proposes this question to a king. He's like, what are you going to do? And the king says, like work on my morality, work on the wholesome, like cultivate the wholesome. So I really want to encourage people to we can do this. You can do, and it will make a difference. It'll make a difference, definitely, for our own mind stream. And the more of us doing it, the more power to that. But it's really like, it's urgent at this point that we have confidence in cultivating wholesome mind states, and we're putting lots of energy there. Right endeavor, that may I be kind, may I be patient, may I be understanding, even for things that it really stretches me, and to realize that's making a difference. That's climate change. Wow, there's so much we need to clean up, but we can think about the toxic waste inside here and just get to work on it. Will make a huge difference. It actually is the only difference we can make, like truly. And I think that's where that definition of faith, the more and more we practice, the more and more we become convinced. This is worthwhile. This is important. This can make a difference. And I mean, it is making a difference for me. And then it's making a difference for the people that I live with. And then it's making a difference for the people I know. This is what we can do. And then for maintaining these wholesome mind states that we've, got a lot of trust and confidence and conviction about cultivating, and we're putting, that's our faith, and we're putting in it, the energy is flowing, then you just want to try and maintain that. Just realize, this is lovely, and it can be very different things. It could just be that you take up some additional practices. That like when I'm out and about, I'll actively be practicing metta. Each person that I walk by may be well, just as I wish to be well. May be well, may you be happy. Or even in your own meditation practice, you decide maybe once a week, okay, today the schedule's a little bit more open. I'll sit without a timer, and I'll just sit. And then when that, when that wholesome energy dissipates, because invariably it will, because everything's from causes and conditions. So the more you practice, the more momentum there is for the wholesome. And so, that will go for a certain amount of time, and then it'll start to fade. And then there'll be thoughts like, I wonder if there's any text messages, or, maybe I'll have a cup of tea, or, oh, gee, I could get out and not, whatever the thought is, you just decide that first time where things have sort of petered out, and it's like the inclination to stop comes. No, you know what? I'm going to investigate, and I kind of dismantle it, and I'm going to keep going, even if you just keep going for a few more minutes. But that's a training of the mind right there, and that's definitely this forthright endeavor of trying to figure out ways to stretch and maintain the wholesome for longer. Just to reinforce this idea of right endeavor, not striving. It's a quality. It's a tone that we're working with our own minds. With I'll end with a wonderful quote from the suttas. The connected discourses right at the very beginning, 1:1, when the Buddha has this encounter, and the person poses the question, realizes clearly, just even from his complexion, from his disposition, that he's fully enlightened. And he's posed the question. So asking the Buddha, how, dear sir, did you cross the flood? Like, how did you do it? And the Buddha picks up that metaphor of crossing the flood. By not halting, friend, and by not straining, I crossed the flood. Right endeavor. Not halting and not straining. Yeah, engaging with a tone of love and confidence and care. So I'd love to open it up for any questions or comments.